Hey everyone, welcome back. And this is episode 26 of CNY Conversations. I'm Jason Klink. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Elena, and I'm probably going to murder your last name, but
Mhm.
Bombardier?
Yes, you got it. Very
Bombardier, how
good.
about that? So, just a little quick snippet about Elena. Elena is a certified holistic health and life coach. She helps women who want to lose weight, get healthier, and become the best and healthiest version of themselves and do it in a realistic and sustainable way. She helps women develop habits and routines in areas of nutrition, mindset, movement, while helping them feel more empowered, confident, and in control of both their health and their life. Elena, thanks for joining me here today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. It's great to finally be able to do this. We had a quick
Yeah.
discussion about the podcast and we had connected like a majority of my guests for some reason through my Facebook group with the CNY business persons and entrepreneurs.
hmm
And I thought that this would be a really great conversation. I have my own concept of coaching because I did a little bit of coaching of real estate agents in the past, but just kind of talk about how you got into the space and where you're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have an interesting journey. I've kind of been, back and forth a little bit as we had discussed prior to the episode. I started out, I would say, close to 8 years or so ago now. I actually started out with health coaching and personal training, and really it started just based on my own journey. Like I had what I call a lifelong struggle with just getting to a weight where I felt good, approaching it from a very intentional and like self-care place. From where I originally started out, which was from much more like negative and destructive place. I had a lot of disordered eating habits that I was trying to work through.
Mm,
So once I finally got to the place where I had this healthy, sustainable lifestyle versus what I had been trying to do for many years, I started to talk about it a lot. I started putting it out on social media, talking to family, friends about all the things I had figured out, and people started to ask for help, with their own struggles that I had gone through. So that's when I started really informally coaching back then, and then kind of went from there to get my certification as a personal trainer. And as I was training people in person, they were talking to me about all the health things, all the life things, and I'm like, I want to do so much more with this. I feel like I can do so much more with this. So then I went on to actually get certified as a health coach through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, learned a whole lot more about how to actually coach the right way, um,
great.
and nutrition, and just different concepts that you can really use to help people. Did that for about 3 years or so, and then a company based out of Atlanta had reached out to me and saw what I was doing. They said, "Hey, we're actually looking for business and mindset coaches. Do you want to come and work with us and help our clients?" The company I worked for was split in half, so they did half digital marketing, and then as they
Mhm.
were helping their clients grow their businesses, they needed support to actually know how to do that. So they brought in coaches to help them, a team of coaches. So I actually went and did that for almost 3 years. And then recently, as I was doing that, I still was continuing my health coaching for myself as well. And then about 2 months ago, I decided to completely transition out of that and have gone back into fully the life and health coaching as well. And then this year, I got fully certified as a life coach too. So I've always been doing the life coaching kind of mixed in, but now I'm, certified in that as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I picked out a couple of things while you were giving us that background, and it's always interesting to me how when you get into, well, first of all, it's always interesting how a lot of us kind of go through a dark period
Mhm.
before we get to that light period of being able to help others and kind of live life, go through some struggles, have
Yes.
our own personal demons, whatever it might be, and then try to turn that into a positive and be of service to others and help others that may be going through those same winter seasons or whatever you want to call it. Do you find that a lot of your clients are kind of going down that same path?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my clients that I've worked with, especially more on the business side, that a lot of them, that is how they got to the point where they wanted to start their business. I was actually working with started out with more creative small businesses and then got into working with actually only attorneys for a while, lawyers, attorneys,
Oh
law
wow.
firms. And a lot
Hmm.
of them had really interesting stories. Like if they were, personal injury attorney, they had been in a really awful car accident themselves or a family member had. If they were a family attorney, it was a divorce attorney or a family. They had been through a situation maybe with their own kids, or when they were a child, or they had gone through a very difficult divorce and they were trying to fill a need, like fill a gap, solve a problem that they had seen and really wanted to be a part of the solution. So yeah, I saw that a ton when I was doing my business coaching work. And yeah, I always hear the phrase that's like, your mess is your message. And that's like truly what
Yeah.
I feel like has really happened for me in any coaching I have done. Like even, as I was coaching business owners, I was reflecting on, everything I have learned. But really it's a lot of the mindset work, whether you're doing the health, whether you're doing business, whether you're coaching on
Mhm.
relationships, it all comes down to the same core principles, the same concepts. And that's really where, if you have that solid foundational training, you could really coach on anything.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely. To answer your question, I believe I went through my journey for forever long because I needed to learn those skills. I needed to learn those things that I didn't know how to do, how to manage, emotions and all of that. And then I did. And I'm like, now I have to tell everybody about it. I have to teach everyone about this. That's really how I
Yeah.
felt on the health side. So I started doing it, with my social media, and it just kind of went from there. So
That's awesome. And folks, if you're watching this, either the live video on YouTube, or you're listening to it later on Spotify, please share what we're talking about today, because I think you're going to find a lot of value, and you may know other people that would take a lot of value in this. So please share it, and drop any comments on anything you might want to know. But one thing I wanted to go back on is it's so interesting, because I was really relating to what you were just saying, because I've told the story a million times. People are probably sick of me telling it, but I spent a number of years working in public safety to the point where I got burned out and I didn't want to do it anymore. And mentally,
mhm,
I wasn't in a good place. Went through a divorce, was down in a hole I wasn't getting out of, and then got some help, got some new skills to be able to deal with that. But I got to the point where I needed to learn something new. And that's
mhm,
how I landed in real estate. I took the real estate course on advice from a good friend of mine who is a broker and ran his own team. And I take the course, but the real estate course only teaches how not to get sued. It doesn't
yes,
teach how to sell houses or run a business.
right.
And then I got into the business, and it was like, oh, I gotta learn about business, I gotta learn about marketing, gotta learn about branding, gotta learn about finance. And that whole thing led, for whatever reason, right into personal development. I went down the
Mhm,
rabbit hole of personal development and started learning from the Andy Frisellas and the Ed Milettes and some of the others influencers that are out there, and trying to, and I've always since then tried to be a positive motivator. A lot of my content up to recently was a lot of positive motivation to try to, you know, shed some light on some things. And
mhm.
is that, do you do a lot of different, pieces of content that kind of highlights what you do and what you're bringing to be of service to others?
Yeah, absolutely. In the motivational space, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yep,
100%. Yes, motivation, but also like how important it is to be really like committed and consistent with what you're doing. Like actually have your goal and be so determined and like have
mm,
made that decision that you're working towards it, because motivation is great, but it can be fleeting. Like it's not always something that we're going to have. Like as a business owner, and if anyone's a business owner here, or if you've accomplished any goal, like we don't always wake up in the morning with motivation. So
right,
what I really work with people on is, one, like how can we create that ourselves, like our intrinsic
mhm,
motivation in the day to day. But then two, what do we do if it's not there? Because that is really the key, kind of as you mentioned, we can learn how to do all the things. Like most of us, like most of the clients I work with on the health side, we can download a meal plan. We can join a gym. We know how to move our body, but we don't do it. We struggle to do it in the day to day. Like you probably know people who got their real estate license or got, something, another certification or license, and then didn't do anything with it. And that's
right,
the piece that is really the hard piece. And that's where like knowing how to motivate yourself, knowing how to pick yourself back up, put yourself at your desk and do your work when you don't feel like it, or go to the gym when you don't feel like it, that is where the true work comes in. And that's really where I end up spending most of the time with my clients, is teaching them how to do that in the day to day. And the cool part about that is once you learn it in health or in whatever area you're focusing on, you can apply those same skills in every other area.
yeah,
You
yeah,
don't
for
need to
sure.
do it once.
And the what I've seen is, a lot of people will start something new, start to learn something new, but they don't see it to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then they fall back into old habits instead of building new habits and new routines and new skill sets. I have public safety colleagues that would like to go do something else, either after retirement or just because they're burned out and they don't want to do it anymore. But a lot of times they just don't understand they have to develop a new skill set,
Hmm.
and you have to make yourself marketable or hireable to somebody's company. Or if you're going to start your own company, that's a lot of hard work. But the thing is, and I hope that you agree, the thing is once you start having some wins, it gets a little bit more addicting, because I think a lot of us have that a little bit of an addictive personality, to where you start getting some wins and you want to get another win, you want to get
Yep.
another win.
Yep.
And the universe will knock you back every now and again. And the one thing we have to prepare ourselves for is the universe will knock you back, so you don't get too used to winning, I guess, so to say.
Hmm.
Um, what are some of the biggest hurdles some of your clients really, is it just mindset, or some other things, some other hurdles that they tend to have to get over?
So, in my opinion, in my experience, it always comes down to, at the root, it's always what we're thinking. It's always mindset.
Yeah.
Because even when somebody says time, I don't have time. This is one I love to talk about, because
Oh, I love that.
once I start asking questions, it never comes down to time, ever. Like maybe 1% of the time is it actually they truly like wake up, go do something, come home, have to go to bed, and like start over again. Usually it's just that our priorities aren't really matching up with what we're saying,
Yes.
our planning. So yes, I truly believe it always comes down to something we're thinking, because even with that example, somebody comes to me and says, I just don't have time. We start to dive into it, and it's like, okay, but that's because you're sitting here just talking about how you don't have any time and you have so many things to do and I'm so busy. It doesn't open up any room like in your brain, or even any space for you to start looking at, what time do I have? What can I do here?
Yeah.
And like shifting your focus in a different direction. So really anything that we are dealing with, if we are able to do that, shift our thinking to a different direction, we can get a completely different result. So to answer your question, I think at the root, it always goes back to a thought. However, that's not typically what we present with, because we don't even realize that half the time. So I would say that's a big one, is time, like balancing it all. Like I work with a lot of business owners. So balancing, owning a business, managing a business, if you're working on hiring, and a family
Mhm.
sometimes, maybe you travel. It's juggling all of those balls and making it all work. I think that is probably the biggest thing I hear. Um, Second would be, a lot of people have a lot of like limiting beliefs or like stories that they've been carrying around for a very long time, that they're like they're limitations they put on themselves. So it's like, I can't do it. I can't lose the weight. Nothing's going to work for me. There's just something wrong with me. I cannot follow my own plan. And I always laugh, because I say, I hear this every day, all day. There's nothing wrong with you. We just have a human brain, and like it doesn't like challenge. It doesn't like discomfort. And anytime we're working towards a goal, or opening a business, or trying to lose 10 pounds, same things, we're going to feel a certain way, and it's not always going to be positive, just like you were saying before. So we have to train ourselves to focus on the wins, to train ourselves to think, okay,
Yep.
obstacles are normal, totally okay. What am I going to do with them?
That's God, that's such great stuff. So, and what I was sitting there thinking was, some of the best things that I've heard is, there's the same 24 hours in every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you manage yourself in those 24
Yes.
hours. You can think you're managing time, and you can time block all you want and whatever, but you have to manage yourself.
Yes.
And you only need 6 to 7 hours of sleep every day. What are you doing with the other 17 or 18 hours in your day?
Yeah.
And managing yourself in that sense. But here's the other thing is, like, I notice this with real estate agents, is like, they don't manage their days very well. They don't manage themselves very well. They'll post, "Hey, I'm writing an offer at 11 p.m. at night." Why are you writing an offer at 11 p.m. at night? Your
Mm-hmm.
day has to end at some point. That offer is not, and that client is not going to catch on fire if you don't get to that offer until 8 or 9 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sitting there texting business at 10 or 11 at night, it can wait. At some point, you have to start and end your day, and give yourself the space to be able to focus and be present in the areas that you need to be present with: your business, your family, your loved ones, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, that always gets me jumping out of my
Yeah.
chair. But it's just, you're right. It's mindset. Mindset's hard. Even if even if you're going to build a business or build something, mindset's hard because the imposter syndrome and all the negative thoughts that can creep in. It's hard.
Mhm. It's hard and it's everything at the same
Yeah.
time. Because it's like if you can master that, you can truly go and accomplish anything. Because whether it's going to take a long time, you can handle it. Whether you're going to be afraid, you can handle it. Whether it's uncomfortable, you can handle it because you've
Yep.
got all of those skills and tools.
Yep.
Yeah, for
Yep.
sure. Like the managing yourself, that is key. And that goes back to, like I said, the number one obstacle people present to me is, I always see it, is that we don't think proactively or intentionally about our time. It's just almost like it's something that happens to us. Like I always hear people say, the week got away from me. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, does the week have legs? Did it run? Like, what do you mean by that? The week got away from you. Like, so that's like where we start to break it down. Let's talk very like facts only. Let's only talk about the data. What actually happened this week? Like, did you plan? Did you not plan? Most people don't even have a plan. What
Right.
did you want to accomplish this week? Most people have no idea. Like how
Mm.
many times did you want to get to the gym? It's like, well, I wanted to get there a couple, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, let's get really specific, because then we're so much more likely to accomplish it. So I think it's both those things, like, being intentional with your time, being proactive and actually planning, and then the other side of it is following through. And most of us aren't doing either of those things. So then we never get where we want to go, or especially in the time frame we want to
Yeah.
get there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you speak with your clients about having those non-negotiables?
Yes.
Not, gym time, family time, whatever it might be. Do you get into how certain things should be non-negotiable?
Yes, 100%. That's something, like, in the beginning of working together, we evaluate priorities. Like, what are your priorities and what are you saying there? Because a lot of times they are not the same thing. And then we're looking at, okay, what'd you do last week? What'd you do yesterday? And it's most of the time, again, it's just not aligned. And then
Yeah.
we get into what are your non negotiables? Yeah, for each day and for each week. Like, what are the things you do not want to go a day without doing? You do not want to go a week without doing? Yeah, very big. I have them for myself. And then I always
Yeah.
share, what I recommend. But everyone has to decide them for themselves. That's like
Yeah.
super key, is they have to, yeah, have their own.
Yeah, for sure. And,
Mhm.
like I always think back to, people kind of laugh. People that I know when I say, "Well, I get up at 5 a.m. every morning, so I get my workout done." Because if I wait till 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I will talk myself out of it every
Mhm.
single time.
Mhm.
But getting up at 5 and getting in that routine and getting it done in an hour, and then I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about it anymore the
Mhm.
rest of the day. And that's tough for some folks because, oh, I could never work out at 5 or 5:30 in the morning, and it's just too hard. Well, yes, if you tell yourself that, it will be too
Exactly.
hard.
Exactly. And it's not easy for us either, but we do it, right? Like, we get
Oh
up
yeah,
because, yeah. So that's the thing that people think, oh, but it's hard. And it's like, yes, it's supposed to be. That is how
supposed
you're
to be hard.
building those skills. That skill, those habits, is going through the
Yeah,
hard. And then on the other
yeah,
side of it, you're like, oh my God, I did this. I'm amazing. And you have this confidence that
yep,
has grown from that. So yeah.
yeah. And I always, tongue in cheek, I just kind of laugh at like New Year's resolutions. I've stopped setting and believing in New Year's resolutions like 5 years ago because it shouldn't be a New Year's resolution. It should be an all year resolution or an all year
Mhm.
plan, all year habits and routines. And I'm gonna start the new year and I'm gonna work out 4 days a week and lose 30 pounds. And by March they threw it all out the window already because it just gets too monotonous, too hard,
Mhm.
too and really it's flipping that script of, what, I'm going to do this because really it's more healthy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's thinking
So,
about too, like, who do you want to become in the process? Like, I always
oh yeah.
encourage my clients to have, like, yeah, short-term goal. Okay, maybe it's like you want to lose weight or you want to do this, but also, what is your overall vision? We, like, a lot of us talk about that for our businesses, but what about for your life? For your life and for your health? Like, what is your
Hmm.
vision? What can you
Yeah.
literally visualize for yourself? And that way, when maybe you're not seeing progress in the beginning, you're not having all the wins that you want, you can still focus on that vision every single day, and it's going to drive you forward regardless. Like, I always give the example, like, mine is truly like to feel my best every day. Like, I want to wake up
Hmm.
every day and I want to feel my best. So even if I don't weigh myself regularly, and I don't always encourage my clients to unless they want to, because you can usually tell from, other things that are going on if you're seeing benefits or not. But like, if the number is up on the scale and I notice that, it's like, I'm still going to get up and work out the next day and eat healthy, because that is what's going to contribute to my vision, not just my short-term goal. So like, I think that can be really key too.
What do you think about the generational influence on mindset, on vision, on life plans? The generations before us, it could be our parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever, that kind of influence the path that we take based on their experience and kind of breaking the mold
Hmm.
to create our own path and do better things for ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting, the difference in the ways that we think. Like my mom comes to mind as you're saying that. And I think that for me, like it's almost been empowering and kind of like motivational watching the way that they think and seeing it in like seeing my own life in a different way and the opportunities that are available to us. And
Yep.
so it's almost like I know some people kind of take that and like maybe go the opposite direction. Like, oh, well, my parents don't think it's a good idea for me, or it's, they don't support me or whatever it is. But I'm like, no, I want to show people that it's possible, like that these
Yeah.
things are possible, whether it's building a business, whether it's reaching these goals, when you have all the limitations, when you have kids and like, it's, you should stay home or whatever it is, like your grandparents may think that. It's like, no, we don't have to do that anymore if we don't
Right.
if we choose not to.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think it's super interesting, but I think there's a lot of ways to look at it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. It just depends on the lens that you're looking through, but
Yeah.
it's always interesting to me, like certain mindsets that are really, I believe, influenced from the baby boomer generation is you go to school, either high school and college, or just high school, come out, get a good job. You have to get a good paying job to create a retirement nest egg to hopefully retire someday to try to enjoy that nest egg before you die.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if you don't have a job, you could build a $300 million company, but there's certain generational aspects that'll be like, well, what's your full-time job?
Yes.
Wait a minute. So it,
Right.
it's it's but I think as the generations kind of shifted here, so as the mindsets, because we're all
Mhm.
so connected now like this, that I think there's a bit of a shift in that, and the vision, the lens for career, for health, for fitness, for everything is a lot different.
Mhm. Absolutely, and I like to think about it too for them, like, that is what, like, they have been, what is the word I'm trying to think? Like, that what they've been conditioned to think. Like, they have been
Yes.
told that so many times over the years. So,
Yep.
like, for them, it's like, "But no, you have to have a job. You have to go to work every day, 9 to 5." Like, "What do you mean you're not working 9 to 5?" And it's like, I don't they don't just it's hard for them to understand because that
Yeah.
is truly however many years, possibly 60, 70, depends on who you're talking to, they've been
Right.
hearing that thing. So it's like trying to understand it from their, like, with empathy, I guess is the word, like
Yeah.
understand where they're coming from. That can be really
Yep.
helpful, I think, when you're trying to have conversations with people who are just like, no, but you need to go find a job because that's not secure or whatever it is.
Right. Right. Yep.
It can be helpful, I think, sometimes too.
Yeah.
So.
For sure. One of the things in the information that you had sent me that I kind of zeroed in on is that some of the groups that you've created,
Hmm.
which I think is outstanding. You have your Syracuse Moms Dinner Club, Syracuse Moms Networking and Co-working, and then your Healthy and Empowered Meetup group.
Yes.
It seems like, I mean, two of them are for moms, but it seems like very different, we'll say flavors, very different flavors for each one of those groups. Can you go into it a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So the reason for each of them, and it's funny because I've lived in a few different states over the past couple of years. We lived in Atlanta for a while. I was in Raleigh for a little bit. I grew up in Buffalo, so then now we're back here to be closer to family. And I've created similar groups in almost every area that I've been in. And one, I think I just have this like, I just want to create groups clearly because I keep doing it. But two, because I keep seeing a need for them. So like in each
Okay.
area, I'm on Facebook a lot. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups, and there's always in moms groups because I'm a mom, and there's always so many people posting like, hey, I really wish I had like a group of friends to meet up with, to go to dinner, to check out new restaurants, all of the things. So I'm like, nobody's made a group yet. I'm going to. So that's where the dinner group came from. Like I think I started it first. I think it was in Raleigh, and it took off like very quickly. I mean, so many people joined it fairly quickly without me really pushing it much at all. Like I threw it up in a few posts. Some people are saying I need friends. I've had hundreds of people join, and like it just kind of went from there. So like each
Yeah.
one kind of started in a similar way, and I love to go out to eat. Like as a health coach, that's a weird thing, but I do. I love to go out to eat. I love to go out and like check out new places and just
Yes.
experiences. And My
Yep.
husband and I do that about once a month, but I'm like, okay, this is a great way to go out a second time and meet some new people and doing it, being newer to the area. So that's where that one came from. Second one, very similar. Like people, I had seen, some people post in other groups, like about co-working spaces or just looking for, networking opportunities. And there's a lot of networking groups, but I really didn't see any like co-working groups or kind of like mixed together, especially like for working moms. So I had put that together. It's a smaller group. We have smaller meetups, but that's been great too. And again, it was just kind of to fill a gap that I didn't see something else filling at that point. And then the last one is really like taking my health coaching practice to a meetup group. Like, so it's specifically local. I did notice the other day I have a few people in there that aren't local, but it's fine because I do some virtual meetups on there too. And I've done
Hmm.
like a few walk-in talks, meetups like at the park to just talk through goals and strategies and that kind of thing. I had a session all around like creating and sticking to your plan and goal setting. But yeah, so that one came out of more my business and my coaching and just wanting to pull some people together that had similar goals and support them in that group too. So
Yeah, and I always talk about how I started the CNY Business Persons Networking Group just in the middle of the pandemic lockdown because
mhm,
we had nothing else to do, and started that. But it really took off in 2022, where I started getting a lot more members, which was
mhm.
fantastic. Do you think that that whole COVID pandemic situation kind of heightened our awareness of participating and interacting with other human beings because now we know what it's like not to be able to?
100%, 100%. I remember towards like the end, whenever that I don't
Right,
know. But I do
right.
remember I started seeing everywhere people were like, just could not wait to get out of their house, get with other people in like, networking settings, but also, of course, family, friends. But I think
Yep.
that made such a huge difference. Yeah. Cause we just realized like how much we need that and want it in a day to day basis. And like at one point, we really didn't have it. So I think it was twofold. I think that, but also we saw so many additional opportunities to do it virtually because
Yeah.
before we really there were some but it definitely wasn't as popular as it is now. So I think that's kind of an awesome thing that did come out of that is like there are so many more virtual networking groups that exist. Some are really
Yeah.
great, and people got really creative with it. So yeah, I think for sure that pushed people to do more of it and in different ways.
Yeah. No, 100% agree. And I think that, and there's so much you can get out of it between the
Hmm.
collaboration or masterminding or just an info sharing. There's just so much you can get out of these type of group. I've met some,
Hmm.
we haven't met in person yet, but we will in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And because of the networking group and the other events that we've had, I've met some phenomenal people, some great successful business owners and career minded people. And if it wasn't for that and kind of putting ourselves out there in a group like that, we would never have had the opportunity to get together and learn. You can learn so much from other individuals that you may not be aware of.
100% agree. Yeah, I am a big networker. I'm part of many groups, just to kind of evaluate which ones are a good fit for me, which ones aren't. And yes, every single time I meet great people, and I always learn one thing when I go,
Yeah.
whether it's about
Yep.
a new business or something, a new idea, just like you said, every single time. And I think part of that is going into it with like the right mindset and intention too. Like
Yes.
I'm going to like help someone today, or I'm going to
Yep.
get some kind of value out of this for myself and for someone else. I think that's a huge thing because when I used to work with my clients, I had some who like felt the same way, and then others who were like, networking's a waste of time. It takes so much of my time. And I'm like, yeah, because you're again thinking about it that way. If you're
Yep.
going in and you're like, no, I'm going to meet as many people as I can, tell them about
Yeah.
the amazing work I do and learn about them, you're going to get a totally different experience than if you go
Yes.
approach it from the other angle. Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. That's fantastic. So, as we head, just to flip gears here a little bit, but as we head into the last part of the year and going into 2024, what are some of your bigger pieces of advice to end the year strong and start the new year just as strong, if not stronger? So you're not, and some of the things I used to coach real estate agents on is don't you dare let off the gas in November just
Hmm.
because the real estate year is over with, because any closing or transactions from November to December are next year's business. But I used to tell them all the time, don't you dare let off the gas, because if you let off the gas, now you're playing catch up at the beginning of the year and you're just losing all that type of momentum. So, what kind of pieces of advice do you give folks about ending the year strong so you start the new year just as strong?
Yeah, so I think what you just said is definitely one of them. I think the other thing is like taking that time to like reflect. Like, what worked this year? What worked amazingly well? Like,
Yeah.
actually look at your data also, and then don't like sit to in just a space of what felt like it went really well. What are some new things I tried? Like, in addition to, of course, looking at your analytics and your revenue and all of that. But I think both are very important. And like deciding like, okay, what do I want to do differently? Like, and starting to think about your goal setting if you haven't already. Maybe you have a time set for it in December, or maybe you do it in January, but starting to think through, like, get your wheels spinning, like, what do I truly want out of 2024? I think the earlier
Yeah.
you can start doing it and start working towards it, and like getting yourself in again that mindset of, you know, what you
Mhm.
want to create, you're going to be more likely to continue creating it now. So I think those two things. I think taking the time to reflect on everything that maybe you learned this year. How did you grow this year? What would you do differently next time? Like, what do we want to carry into the next year? As well as starting to think about your goal setting if you haven't already, or and definitely set a date for it if you haven't, if you don't have like the
Yes.
time to actually do it.
Yep.
But even start thinking now, because I feel like a lot of times, like, every single day, like, things happen that we're like, oh, I got to make sure to note this down or bring this into my goal setting, and like we forget about it. So I think the earlier you can start intentionally doing that, the more effective your day is going to be when you actually do like plan for the following year. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
those couple things can be really helpful. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. But yeah, I think that pretty much summarizes for things that come to mind right now.
Yeah, one of the things I've just set my mindset on, and I used to tell real estate coaching clients was, don't start your goal planning the third or fourth week of December because you're already behind. You really should start in November so you can start working through it, and by
Mm-hmm.
the end of December you're finalized. So January 1, you're ready to hit the ground
Yes.
running. It always made me laugh of folks that were like the first or second week of January. All right, I'm gonna start my 2023 goal planning.
Yeah.
You're already 2 weeks in.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting. I have seen some businesses who like always do it in January. So I used to always say like end of year, but then
Yeah.
it worked for them. They had the reasons for it. So I'm like, you know what? The most important thing is that you're doing it.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah,
but I do
100%.
think November. I think November is such a great November, December, such a great time. Beginning of December, such a great
Yeah.
time. But also, like you said, like not letting your foot off the gas, like because it kind of goes back to that overall vision piece. Like if you want to be the
Yes.
most successful, you know, whatever you are, or you want, your goal is to help this number of people or whatever it is, you're definitely not going to let off the gas, because every single day you're working towards that goal. So that's like where
Yes.
it kind of comes down to like, oh, we're not just going to, unless you've already decided, okay, I have a 2 week vacation. Well, that's one thing. And it's on, you know, on your calendar, all that stuff. We're not talking about
Right.
that. But
Right.
yeah, I think that helps you continue on with that, even regardless of when it is in the year.
That's fantastic.
And
Elena,
actually
this is
one,
oh, go
I
go
was just
ahead.
going to say
Go ahead.
one more thing too. I think sometimes
Yep.
if you're not on track with your goals, sometimes we can use that as a reason to be like throw in the towel and just say like, well, you know what, I'll try again next year, or we're already so far behind. And I think that's
Yeah.
another really big thing. Like, we are still only in October, and it still does not matter. Like, literally hours, days could change the entire trajectory of your year. So I think
Oh
that's a
yeah.
huge thing to remember. Like, don't let yourself get so down that you can't pull yourself back up. I think always make sure that you're evaluating, how are you thinking, what are you doing, like what can I change, what's the next best step right now to still go towards where I want to be, even if you're nowhere near it. Because if you
Yeah.
stop,
Yeah.
you're
Evaluating and
guaranteed to fail.
reevaluating.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
And one of the great things that especially as you get near the holidays is like one of the great things I always hear Ed Milet talk about is it's a holiday. It's not a holiday. It's not a month. It's a holiday. So once the holiday is over with, you should be getting right back at it. And again, not letting your foot off the gas because
Yeah,
this it's he talks about separation season. You're able to separate yourself from your competition because if they're enjoying a month and you are just enjoying the holiday and continuing on, now you're getting
yeah.
that much farther ahead.
Yeah, that brings up such a good point too. Like, we all know December is December. We all know that we have Christmas and people take
Yep.
off. And like, it's almost like I feel like people like turn a blind eye to it, and then like they say after, well, we had Christmas. And I'm like, we knew this. So we're in a great time now too, for anyone listening who's a business owner. Start, like, think through, when are people off? What are our goals? How can we still get as close to we
Yep.
as we want to our goals, regardless? Like, what can we put in place now where it's still in October to still move
Yes.
towards that, even though people may be off, people may call off holidays, all the things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Elena, such great stuff. So do you have anything new on your horizon before the end of the year? Anything that you're working on, or you want to talk about before the end of the year?
No, nothing new that I would say. I always have my main program that I work on, and that's on the health side. It's called Healthy in 10. So I help
Mhm.
people who want to lose weight, but do it, like I said before, in a very realistic, sustainable way. And I call it Healthy in 10 because it's help you lose at least 10 pounds in 10 weeks in a way that you can maintain it for life in 10 simple steps. So if someone wants to lose less, they can follow the same principles, same concepts, more same principles, same concepts. It's just like kind of drilling it into our brain, creating those habits, thought habits, and the action habits that are going to get us to where we want to be long term. So that's like my main program. I'm always running that. But then I also have a free 7-day health reset. I don't know if I had mentioned that before. And that's actually a great thing to do around the holidays. That's when I see a lot of people
Yeah.
doing it. That's actually when I created it. And it's basically like taking 7 days to really hone in on like the healthiest habits for you. And it really, I always say it like it's like a great thing to like reset your body, mind, and taste buds. So really you are eating the foods that fuel you the absolute most. You are moving every day. You are starting to like pay more attention to your thinking, how it's creating your results. And it's a very specific 7-day free program, just a completely free guide that I have. And I created it, like I said, I think it was after Thanksgiving because I had been at my family's for a couple days, and even practicing my habits that I do, I was like, oh, I don't feel the best. I'm just going to do something for 7 days, created the thing, put it out there. A lot of people did it and loved it. So I'm like, you know what? Now I have this available all the time for when we just need a 7-day reset. So that's something
That's
that I
great.
do have if anyone's interested, for sure.
That's fantastic. It's one of those things where you can, not everybody's going to sign up to work with a coach and or whatever, but being able to connect with folks like yourself to be able to give some kind of direction, even if it's a small bit of advice or maybe share a story or something like that, I think has such a profound effect on folks that they know that there's an outlet and there's somebody out there that they can learn from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great thing, and really the world needs more people like you in it, and being of service to others and trying to be a positive
Mm-hmm.
light in some folks when they're having a tough time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. I love doing it.
Well, Elena, I thank you for joining me here today. I appreciate you taking the time. Such great information. I'd love to have you back at the beginning of the new year, in the beginning of
Yeah.
2024, just to talk about, hey, it's a new year, now what, kind of a thing, and
Absolutely.
go through. I think a lot of people get a lot of value out of that, and it's been successful when I've tried it in the past. So I'd love to have you back. Come the beginning of 2024.
Sounds great. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So if folks wanted to get a hold of you or get in touch with you or connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so my website is Elena, ELENA, NicoleHealth.com. Or I'm on all the socials, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, at Elena Nicole Health. So you can see my first name here, but it's ELENA Nicole Health and on any of the socials. So you can feel free to message me, follow me. Yeah,
Mhm.
and would love to talk and help anyone who could benefit from it.
Great. And if for some reason you can't find her on social, feel free to drop a comment on this podcast video or, reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to connect you. If there's anything you want to, ask Elena about in the near
Yeah,
future. So with that, again, I appreciate you taking the time. Super great conversation. Probably could have went another hour, but I
I
want to be
know.
respectful of your time. So with that, everyone, please like, comment, share, all that good stuff. I'm trying to build a small community around our small community around this podcast. And the only way I'm going to be able to do it is if you share this with others. So, I appreciate everybody that's tuned in and supported the podcast, and looking forward to great things come the end of this year and the beginning of the new year. So with
Absolutely.
that, everybody, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have a great day.